as promised, now it's time to answer all your questions. So for those of you who sent in your questions a few weeks ago, you're finally going to get the answers to all these motherfuckers. And for those of you who didn't send in questions, well, you're too fucking late. I'm not taking any more questions. All of them have already been answered, so the videos are going to be getting posted up in the next couple of days. As for the YouTube order, no, you can still go fuck yourself. I'm not answering your question. I think for the future question and answer sessions, though, I want to go with a theme. And a big reason for that is, as you guys are going to see in some of these questions that are coming up, a lot of them are somewhat similar. A lot of them have sort of the same theme running to them. So I might in the future decide, you know what, I'm going to have a theme running in the next question and answer session. That way, people can sort of keep all the same topics and I can go over sort of the same things. So I feel like I'm already answering repeat questions. But essentially, the future, I have a theme. I have a good idea for that I'm going to do for that in the future. But that's the future. Let's get into some of the questions right now. And the very first question comes from someone who has probably the funniest name and avatar I've seen. Look at this shit. Compelling Top Hat. He wants to know, what are your views on net neutrality right now? It was a pretty huge topic not too long ago, but I started wondering, what the fuck did that just read? Obviously, English might not be his first language, so I don't make fun of this motherfucker, but if ISPs ever were to try to pull some bullshit limiting access to different sites, wouldn't the free market regulate itself and make people go buy from an ISP that does not pull some bullshit like that? Is it even as big a problem as people would seem? What are your thoughts? Now, I'm pretty sure in a prior question answer session, I actually talked about net neutrality, so I might just be reiterating some points that I already made. So a few of you guys who might remember some of my prior question answer sessions probably already know this. So let me just give you a little background first. First of all, I pay for damn good internet speeds. I pay good money to have top-of-the-line internet. So I want people to understand that part when I go over this. Net neutrality is the idea that the internet should be treated the same for all people, and that carriers and the government should not slow down, prevent, throttle, whatever the fuck, access to any site, or charge more for more sites just because they want to. And I agree that everyone should have fair access to internet content. I agree. Carriers should not throttle or prevent users from accessing competing sites. And cases like this have happened in recent years. Like Verizon was slowing down access to Netflix and YouTube. And AT&T was throttling FaceTime because they wanted their own app to be used. Comcast slowed down peer-to-peer sharing sites. The internet should not be limited or restricted. The same way television shows and cable networks cannot stop you from watching certain things. Comcast owns NBC along with being an internet provider. But they can't prevent viewers from watching CBS or ABC. That same mentality that works for television should be applied to the internet. Access to these sites should not be prevented. Although, I have no issue with people who spend money and get a better service and get better speed. You know, I pay for a better speed than my neighbor. Yes, my download and upload speed is faster, so that should not be changed due to net neutrality laws. If a carrier offers a better plan than a base plan, then those customers should be able to get higher speeds. The access to the sites should be the same. Slowing down competitors should not exist. Slowing down a slower natural internet should not happen. Oh, this guy pays for better internet. I'm going to make sure that he gets the absolute speed. However, this motherfucker, I'm going to make sure that he gets slowed down. No, should not work that way. The idea that everyone should have high-speed internet and pay that premium price, no, absolute bullshit. Because that goes back to the very TV argument that I just mentioned. Some people pay for HBO. Some people have a sports package, which watch the NFL Network or some shit like that, or the college football networks, or the fucking golf channel. Whatever, you get it. These are a la carte. Pay for these services, you get more channels type logic. Again, that same logic should apply to the internet. If I pay for a higher speed, I should be able to download shit quicker. However, I should be able to access ESPN the same way that my neighbor should be able to access ESPN. It's just that my speed to ESPN is going to be a little bit quicker because he didn't pay for the speed that I paid for. But ultimately, he should be able to get to the same networks, the same websites, the same access that I have. However, I should just be able to do it a little quicker simply because I'm paying for a higher speed. Next question from Sarcastic AZN. What is your opinion on all the Hillary shit that went on and is still going on? Should she be tried and jailed? You have to realize that just because Fox News thinks it's a crime, most likely means the rest of the sane world will actually use facts about the case. Oh man, fucking Fox News in their session with Hillary Clinton. You know, it's like they treat her as if she's president right now and they're trying to find anything just to impeach her when clearly she's not in office. She certainly has enough scandals throughout her political history, but realistically, how many things can she be sent to trial for, let alone jailed? Benghazi was, of course, always going to be her biggest black eye. You have the private serve, which was the stupidest fucking thing imaginable. Covering up years of Bill Clinton's sexual harassment through threats and coercions, also horrible. Funding the Democratic National Committee to rig the system against Bernie Sanders so he couldn't win the nomination. Using the Clinton Foundation as Secretary of State to get people to donate money to the foundation. Then you throw in those Fox News stories about the dossier Russian collusion with Trump. And then this utterly ridiculous Uranium One deal with Russia. Plus all the made-up shit, you know, the one about her staff member being killed in an international conspiracy that Sean Hannity was bullshitting over the summer over. So look, let's see each story real quick and see what she should and has already been held accountable for. Benghazi was when Ambassador Chris Stevens and his staff members were killed in a terrorist attack. They were over at the U.S. Embassy in Libya. Initially, they said that it was going to be part of the Arab Springs and it was the protests that caused this, but it was an actual terrorist attack held on September 11th. The summary is Chris Stevens thought he was in danger, so he made a request for more security and he never got that security. Hillary Clinton's office, not her directly, but her office was responsible for providing that security. However, the funds for the security needed to be approved, and that didn't happen either. That was out of her and her office's control. Either way, people lost their lives over this. She already testified to Congress about this already, answered all their questions regarding the incident, and ultimately, they found that she wasn't responsible for it. A terrorist attack happening. Security was asked for, but it wasn't approved on time, and at the very least, her office could have told the ambassador to just get out of there ahead of time instead of waiting for security. No matter what, Congress couldn't find anything to hold her accountable for. The server thing and the emails, also brain-fuckingly stupid. As you know, the Clintons have always enjoyed operating above the law. They think they're special above everyone else, so Hillary was given a private server. It was approved by the White House to have that private server. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm at work and I'm finished with emails, what do? I delete them. If I'm finished with something and I've already resolved the case and it's nothing that I have to keep, cool, it's going in the garbage. She did exactly what every regular person would do with completed emails, except in her position as a government employee, she's not a normal citizen. As Secretary of State, you have to keep government documents and not delete them. The problem you have is that with government servers, the records are kept automatically. Hers weren't. Again, operating differently than everyone else. Using a completely unsecured private server that could have easily been hacked, she didn't treat government documents the way she should have. The FBI investigated her, but here's the rub. It was all approved by Obama. So the president approved the separate server to which there is no illegal law for, so she had it set up. She's guilty of being naive. She's guilty of being completely and utterly clueless on how sensitive the documents were and can possibly be tried on destroying government documents. However, as the FBI investigated, the only thing they could determine was that she was guilty of bad judgment. Obama was guilty of bad judgment in that case as well. Bad judgment is not something you go to jail for. Bad judgment leads to bad decisions, but you get charged on the bad decisions that happen, not the judgment itself. It leads to crimes, but it's not a crime itself. Hence, why this hasn't gotten her thrown in jail until they can somehow prove she purposely destroyed classified documents. And of course, until you have those classified documents, you don't know what's classified or what isn't. And to be honest, she probably did delete some classified things, but the fact is we're never going to get those to be able to prove that to charge her with a crime. You also have her covering up all the years of Bill Clinton's sexual harassment, which legally was swept under the rug during Bill's heyday. At this point, the statute of limitation is well beyond what they could have charged Bill with, let alone the charges of intimidating the victims. Is she guilty of that? Probably, yes. I will almost guarantee she tried to intimidate the witnesses, but here's the thing, there's nothing that can legally be done at this point because the statute of limitations has already run out. She funded the Democratic National Committee for a while with all of her campaign funds and then expected them to choose her and favor her over Bernie Sanders. Immoral? Absolutely. Illegal? No, it isn't. The DNC should have had the higher moral ground than to allow that to happen in the first place. But of course, they wanted her money, and quite honestly, they wanted her to win over Bernie Sanders. So let's be honest for a second. He's been an independent all these years. Then all of a sudden, for a hot minute, he becomes a Democrat? I'm not sure how that was even allowed to do that shit. But in essence, he was screwed over. They wanted to screw the poor guy over. So they allowed Hillary to basically be in charge. Is that corrupt? Absolutely. Illegal? No, there was no law against what was done in the DNC case. Clinton Foundation is another one, virtually impossible to prove. Throughout all of her travels to meet foreign leaders, they donate money to the Clinton Foundation. Did she do this for political favors? I am sure some shady deals were done. Can anyone prove it? No, of course not, because if they did, she would already be on trial for that shit. You know, I wouldn't doubt for a hot minute she promoted the foundation to world leaders, and they gave money in hopes of gaining favor with the United States. So that would not be a surprise. They do that all the time in business outside of foundations. So don't want to hear this shit that, oh yeah, they donated her foundation. They donate to the countries all the time. But outside of the foundation, the country already does this legally. I mean, even without the backroom deals, we already do things legally through trade agreements, summits, import and export tariff prices. She just happened to do it with her foundation, which, by the way, is impossible to prove unless some foreign leader decides they want to incriminate themselves for whatever reason. So until that occurs, no crime has been committed. Now, aside from all the Fox stories about the uranium deal, the international death conspiracy, whatever the fuck that shit was, the dossier about Trump and all the illegal stuff that he was doing, look, while it sounds like they can make a case against Hillary that was involved in approving this and doing all of this shit, I'm not going to get into the details, but look, ultimately, when it came to the uranium deal, a Russian company got their hands on Canadian uranium, and it had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. Fox's timelines of the events is filled with speculation and falsehoods because they want to portray as Hillary in charge. She wasn't. That's just a simple fact. She never signed off on this, and 9 other people did. So they're trying to say that, oh, she corrupted one person, but how the hell do you get them to corrupt the 8 others? You don't. There's no evidence and there's no link to that. So unless you can manage to prove that she coerced 8 other people into approving that, she had nothing to do with this one. As for the dossier on Trump, it's already been shown that the Republicans started it initially because they didn't want Trump to be the president. When they realized it wasn't going to work, the Democrats picked up on it and they started funding it. In the end, is it illegal? No. Nothing broke the law in this case. They funded a research project that in the end proved nothing other than a bunch of lies about Trump. Can you prosecute them on this? No. There was nothing illegal done on this. And matter of fact, all the work was paid for initially by Republicans. The only reason the Democrats got involved was they paid extra money in order to get access to it and continue the research to see if there was anything involved there. So when you look at her political history, is there anything she could be tried for, let alone jailed? No, Benghazi was a governmental breakdown, which she was indirectly responsible for, but again, she didn't commit a crime. The email server and deleting of documents can't be unequivocally proven. Harassment claims against Bill Clinton passed the statute of limitations. The Democratic National Committee bullshit, isn't it legal or against the law? The Clinton Foundation claims are impossible to prove. The Uranium One deal that Fox likes to lie about cannot be proven. The Trump dossier, started by Republicans, paid for by Democrats, but again, it was a whole bunch of lies, but none of that was illegal. So what is she guilty of? Bad judgment, horrible governance, being self-absorbed and obsessed with her own career, but none of that shit is against the law. So again, nothing can be proven and held against her. Is she a piece of shit? I think so. But you can't put any charges against her that will actually lead to a trial. Next question from Mr. Final Prestige. How do you see the issue of the NFL players kneeling for the anthem playing out in the long run? Will players eventually stand, or will the fans ultimately not watch and force owners to make a rule requiring them to stand? I'll bet you any amount of money. I can almost see this coming, that during the offseason something is going to be worked out. Whether the league forces a rule or works something out with the players, this will be the last year that you actually see them kneeling, and here's why. Money talks. Well, while the NFL, look, is still making cash hand over hand each year, there is no question some of the revenue streams are actually dropping, from merchandise to local network viewership, which will hit their advertising bottom dollar. However, the majority of the NFL's money comes from television contracts, which are mostly locked in for the next few years. Well, with the exception of Thursday Night Football and ESPN's contract, which is up for renewal after this year. But Fox, CBS, they're locked in for another 3 to 5 years. But the NFL is going to see a drop in revenue, and that gives TV networks the ability to negotiate prices down. That gives advertisers the right to negotiate prices down. So instead of starting at, say, $1 million per sponsorship or so, that might drop down to $750,000. Instead of a 5-year television contract valued over, say, $500 million, say $100 million per year, networks will say, you know what, let's knock that down to $75 million a year, $80 million a year. Again, that's a starting point for a negotiation. But basically, it's going to take money out of the owners' pockets. Remember, with the NFL and its union, player salaries are already locked in until 2020 when the next labor deal will expire. So the people that are losing money right now are the owners, not the players. The owners are losing money right now. In the offseason, the owners are going to have their meetings, and naturally they're going to propose their changes to the league. With the owners losing money and quite a number of the owners being conservative Trump supporters, I mean, you just have to look at the league. Just look at how many of them actually support Trump. You have Jerry Jones of the Cowboys, Dan Snyder of the Redskins, Woody Johnson of the Jets, Robert Kraft of the Patriots, John Mara of the Giants. I will bet any amount of money they will create a rule that says players have to stand for the anthem. They'll allow them to protest in other ways, but it won't be kneeling during the anthem. Next question from Shut It Down 12. Do you think the United States should ban Nazis and white supremacists in the way Germany has done? I mean, you have to remember, those rules were put in place for Germany. They didn't come up with that shit on their own. You know, after their World War II loss, the Allied nations dictated what Germany had the ability and the rights to do. One of the key pieces was disavowing Nazis to prevent them from rising to power again. You know, it was bad enough dealing with them in World War I. Now they completely fucked up and started World War II. To make sure there wasn't going to be a World War III, Germany basically had to comply with the laws that other nations were instilling upon them. Plus, with their move towards communism, where religion and speech are heavily controlled by the state, that ultimately created this notion that Nazis no longer existed as part of their culture. Now, fast forward to that today. Germany is clearly not the Nazi country that was run under Hitler. Angela Merkel has taken them from a struggling country, you know, a country that had to break up a fucking wall from East and West Germany, to years of reestablishing themselves with Europe, and now dropping all of their roots in communism to become a full democracy. And look, they've undergone quite the transformation over the past 30 years. They're obviously not Holocaust deniers. They know their history, but they also know that allowing any sort of resemblance to Nazi culture or white supremacist ideals could trigger 80 years worth of bad memories from other countries. Shit, Israel still doesn't fully trust Germans, even with their current role as one of the world leaders under Angela Merkel. Now, fast forward to the United States. Our Constitution is vaguely written. As a matter of fact, it's actually going to be a question later on about the Constitution, and I'm going to talk about this and fully address. But the vagueness of our written laws allows for the freedom of speech. It doesn't remove hate speech, although we can make hate speech a crime, but we can't suppress it. And that's something our country is not going to be able to do, no matter how vile these cocksuckers are. Between the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, the alt-right, the white supremacist, Aryan Brotherhood, skinheads, these are all wretched pieces of human garbage. But our laws protect their rights to be that way. It protects them until their views turn into hate speech. The government can't ban them. We can't outlaw them. Certainly can't stop them or force them to stop hating, but we can label them as hate groups. I would even go so far as to actually label them, classify them as domestic terrorists, but our laws do not allow us the ability to outlaw them the way the Nazis were banned as a result of World War II. Next question from Jay Stone. What is your opinion on the new hip-hop underground with rappers like Locksmith, Joyner Lucas, Royce the 5'9", Gangstar, and Murs? Also, what is your 1030 if they were to make a new album? Would you listen to it? I'm going to be very honest with you right now. I've all but given up on music these days. I don't even listen to the radio, man. I don't bother with Spotify or any of the other streaming services or playlist services and shit like that, because in general, music is garbage these days. Utter and total garbage. Even artists that I like 10, 15 years ago, they're releasing bullshit just to keep up with the junk being released today. So I don't even listen to the commercial stuff, let alone underground stuff, which is basically a code word for people that haven't hit it big yet to roll out commercial garbage. Fuck that shit, man. Next question from Exodition. I am a kid about to go to college and I'm picking between Georgia Tech and North Carolina State, electrical and computer engineering. Which one should I pick and what tips do you have for me? Dude, I'm not a fucking college guidance counselor. Look, my initial suggestion is to go to the school that has the best program for your degree, which, I mean, I would assume is Georgia Tech, considering it's a technical school. But look, the real advice that people should give, and the one that you need to pay attention the most to, is go to the school that offers you the most in financial aid and leaves you with the least amount of debt. You know, I don't think kids quite understand how quickly college debt accrues and how much of that is going to affect your life once you get out of school. Trust me when I tell you this. After your initial job out of school, nobody's going to give a fuck what school you went to. And, you know, unless you went to like Harvard, Yale, MIT, or Princeton. When companies look at your resume and they see North Carolina State or Georgia Tech, that is not going to matter 5 years down the road once you've graduated. What will matter, though, is how much you're going to be in debt once you get out of school. There is a big fucking difference between being $50,000 in debt and $200,000 in debt. So without knowing the tuition cost or how good the computer programming schools are, which program is better for you, pay attention to how much you're going to have to pay once you leave school, because that is the kick in the dick that's waiting for you 5 years now down the road. Don't think about now. Think about what's going to occur to you 5 years down the road, all the way through 35, 40 years of your life. Alright, that's going to do it for video number 1. If you didn't see your questions yet, don't worry. There are plenty of videos more to come this week. I believe I'm going to get 4 videos out of all the question and answer sessions this week. So obviously, I'll have some more questions coming up for you. With Thanksgiving coming this week, I won't post on Thursday. The video's going to be coming today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.